And welcome back. As we get ready to do another programming with examples here, we are going to look at our file output. Now, I've gone ahead and started out the output class that I want to use here. The first thing, of course, is whenever I want to write out to a text file, I'm going to use these three import statements. Import java.io.printwriter, import io.fileOutputStream, and java.io file.not-found-exception. These three are very important because obviously this handles whether or not our file is found. This is what actually is handling the stream, and this is the class that's going to do the writing. So if we go ahead and jump into our main here, I went ahead and of course created my PrintWriter right here. So PrintWriter, and I just call this one output stream. I could very easily call this one, for example, file out. It's all going to be the same thing. Again, it's just a name for us to use this. I'm changing this one to file out rather than output stream like last time because last time when we did this, we was just an example, but since we did scanner file in, I figured we might as well do PrintWriter file out. And notice we have our equals null here. Now, if I take this equals null away, again, just like when we had the scanner class, this will be fine here. All right? It's not going to give me any errors until I actually try to use it. So I'm going to leave this here like this for now and come back to it just to, again, just show you that error that's going to pop up. Then we have our try catch that we're going to have. And remember, this try catch needs to be here because of this file not found exception. So if for some reason it can't open that file or can't find it, it's not going to completely crash our program. Instead, what it's going to do is print out an error message and then, of course, exit the program. Now, this, of course, is just the name of this file. So stuff.txt can be any file name I want this to be. So, for example, if I want this to be phrases.txt, I just have to, of course, make sure I update my error message here so that it is appropriate. Of course, I could just make this, just error opening the file. And then, of course, I wouldn't have to readjust it every time I want to change this here. So those are all different links I can do to try and make my programming better. But the important thing is that we set this up in the proper way, which, of course, is file out equals a new PrintWriter, new file output stream, and then, of course, in quotations, phrases.txt. Now, we, of course, can put a variable here. So, for example, if I wanted this to be a variable, let's just say string file name equals quote phrases.txt, I could, of course, replace this right here with file name. And then it will still work just fine. In fact, this actually in some ways is better because it allows us to not rely on a statically coded value here. We could come in and change what file name that we want to put in here. And of course that can be very helpful. For example, if we wanted, let's say, a person to enter the name of the file, let's say we wanted to say, this to be a kb.next, we could do that. So we could very easily put that in, but I'll show that in a minute here. But what I want to, of course, do is have a little bit of writing action, right? So once I've gone ahead and set this up, let's go ahead and have it write to the file. Let's go ahead and do our file out. And of course, we use dot again to call out what we want to write here. So I have, of course, a bunch of different methods. The ones we're going to focus on, though, right now is just going to be println. Or there are a bunch of different options that we can do, but we're just going to do file.println. Now, notice if I leave this in here as is, we do have a small error here. It says it's not initialized, which means if we want to fix this, we need to come up here to where file out is and add back in that equals null because we want this to have some initial value. And this null just means it's not equal to anything, but it will be initialized if we go here into our try block. But if it doesn't, it's going to fall out and hit the system.exit0. So it'll never reach this code here, so we're not worried about that. But because there's the potential of it never initializing, that's why it gives us that squiggle. So we're just going to leave this print line here. What do we actually want to print? Well, let's just print out a phrase. So let's say like computer science is awesome. All right, and that's just a quick print line statement. Of course, we can do this with numbers and characters. So let's just do file out print line. And let's just go ahead with this print. Let's just say my favorite double is, and then we'll just concatenate this because we, again, can treat this just like how we could anything else. So just say 2.5. And we can do variables. So let's say int num is equal to 0. We can just do a file out.println, and we can say num. So this, of course, again, works exactly the same as we might expect from our scanner class. I could even do, for example, if I change this to 1, and do num2 equals 3, I can make this instead be like num times num2. And it will give me the product and store that inside there. I can even have it concatenate and say the product of the two numbers is, and then concatenate that in. And just to make sure this is done correctly, even though it should because of orders operations, I'm just going to put parentheses around this so I know that this is multiplied correctly and doesn't get concatenated in here in a weird manner. All right, now I do want to show some other things, but this is just a quick way. So let's just go ahead and run our program. And it's going to run, and it didn't say anything here, which of course is great because, it didn't. But we should do some other things here. We don't have anything that shows up here, so it might be good to say, hey, we wrote to the file. So system.out.println, and just say writing complete to the file, or you can have some other variation of it like we saw previously. And we have to make sure if we're done writing to the file that we close that output stream. That's another thing we didn't do. We didn't close that output stream. And even though Java did take care of that for us, it's just good practice to make sure we close that output stream. So again, let's rerun it. Now, of course, we get that message that says writing complete to the file. If I go back to here and refresh this, you'll see now I have my phrases.txt. And of course, now we get computer science is awesome. My fair double is 2.5. The product of the two numbers is 3. All right, because of course 1 times 3 is 3. Perfect. And if I change this, for example, now to 2, just to show you this, if I just change one thing in this file, it's not going to just going to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to just go ahead and stick it on the end here or anything like that. It's actually going to completely overwrite this file. So for example, let's just go ahead, we changed one number here, but just to really see it, let's just add in a modifier here. So computer science is pretty awesome. Rerun our code. And if I reopen up my text file, you'll now see it says computer science is pretty awesome. And of course, the product of the two numbers is now changed to 6. It deleted out that original data. So that's one thing to keep in mind here. If we just run this as is with just doing file.out, every time we do this, we're going to delete out that original data. There are ways to go about trying to keep some of that data in, or looking to add data to the end, which is called appending, but that's going to be beyond the scope of what we're going to do right now. For now, this is sufficient. Now, one thing I do want to show is a couple little extra things here, and this might be just you can think of as a bonus here for you. If I wanted, for example, to use the scanner class to get input and then write that output, I can do that as well. So, for example, I'm going to have to add in my scanner class here, so I'm just going to go right after PrintWriter and import the scanner. Again, this is more of a bonus here, so if you're just looking to get the basics of how this works, this is great, but I'm just going to show you this real quick. So I'm going to add a scanner in. Let's create a quick scanner object. Now this one is just going to be for user input, so I don't need to worry about putting this one into the try block. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this a new scanner. And all I want to do is, right here is, for example, instead of saying println this, maybe I want to get user input. So for example, I may say something like, let's do a string input is equal to kb.next line. And then what I'm going to do, and I'm going to actually take this line out of here, and let's make this into input. Let's just give a prompt here, system.out.println, enter a phrase. All right. And when we do this, it's going to allow us to enter a phrase. We're going to type in that phrase, and this should write that phrase to the keyboard. So let's go ahead and rerun this. And you'll see enter phrase. So let's just say computer science is cool. I hit enter, writing complete to the file. Let's open up our phrases.txt, and you'll see it now has computer science is cool here. So this is a way for us to not only write to a file, but allow us to take our user input and put in there. Now, one thing you will note real quickly is that the scanner object, again, is not in this try-catch because the scanner is simply operating here for the console. If I had been using the scanner to try and read what's in the file, then yes, I would need another try-catch block. But because it's not trying to read from the file, instead it's merely just getting the data that's going to be written to the file by the PrintWriter, I don't have to worry about that. But again, that's just kind of a bonus there for you, just to kind of see how you could combine two of the different things that we've been doing with file input and a little bit of file output.